My fiancée slept with her coworker on our anniversaries. I left her without a word. Moved out in one night, and she still doesn't know how. I'm a 27-year-old guy. And for the longest time, I thought I had the perfect relationship. We met back in college, two idealistic souls who believed we were meant for each other. It was like a cliché love story late-night study sessions, laughter that seemed endless, and promises about the future. We had plans: marriage, kids, a house in the suburbs. Everyone around us thought we were the perfect couple. We were that couple, the one people would look at and say, their goals. I thought I knew her better than anyone. She was my best friend, my partner, and the one person I could tell anything to. We spent every weekend together, went on vacations to places we'd always dreamed of visiting, and shared everything: our hopes, fears, and future ambitions. I loved how she was always there for me, her smile lighting up a room, making everything feel safe. But looking back now, I can see the cracks that I didn't see then. Small things like how her phone would buzz constantly late at night when I was next to her. She'd glance at it quickly, then put it down, almost as if she was hiding something. I never thought too much of it. It was just work, right? She was always so busy, always at the office, always telling me she had to take on extra hours. It wasn't until later that I realized those were the signs. She wasn't just busy. She was pulling away. But I couldn't see it then. Things were perfect tour, so I thought. At least, that's what I told myself every time I looked at her. Our anniversary was coming up, and I had everything planned. I'd spent weeks organizing a surprise getaway, a cozy cabin by the lake, candles, roses, the whole 9 yards. I wanted it to be perfect because, in my mind, this was more than just another year together. This was us taking the next step. We'd been talking about marriage for months, even picking out rings together, discussing where we'd live, the kind of life we'd build. I was beyond excited. I remember telling her how I couldn't wait to spend forever with her. We had it all figured out, or so I thought. I had this vision of us growing old together, laughing about how we met. All of it. This anniversary was supposed to solidify that vision. We were supposed to be celebrating our love, our future, the beginning of something even bigger. But as the day approached, something felt off. I noticed she was distracted. She was always glued to her phone, constantly typing away, even during dinner. When I asked her if everything was okay, she'd brush it off with a smile. Just work stuff. Nothing important. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She'd get these weird, nervous glances at her phone, like she was expecting a message, or maybe trying to hide one. She kept making excuses too. I'm really tired today. I have to catch up on some emails. The same line over and over. I wanted to believe it was nothing. I kept telling myself I was overthinking it. But even though it felt like I was just being paranoid, deep down, I had this nagging feeling that I couldn't ignore. Still, I pushed those thoughts away. After all, everything was fine, right? What could go wrong on our anniversary? It happened on the night of our anniversary. We were lying in bed, just the two of us, under the soft glow of candlelight, and for the first time in days, she put her phone down. I remember feeling relieved, thinking maybe we were finally having the moment we both needed. But then, her phone buzzed a message alert. I glanced at it out of habit, the way I always did when her phone buzzed. I wasn't trying to invade her privacy, but something made me look. Her coworker's name appeared on the screen, followed by a string of messages. I miss you. Can't stop thinking about you. I'm sorry. I should have told you I was coming over, but I couldn't wait. My heart stopped. I swear, I couldn't breathe for a second. I didn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. My mind was racing, spinning in every direction at once. I felt a cold sweat prick at the back of my neck. Was I seeing what I thought I was seeing? This couldn't be real. Not on our anniversary. Not after everything we'd planned. I didn't say anything immediately. I just sat there, staring at the phone. She must have noticed something was off because she turned to look at me, her face suddenly tense. I couldn't hide my shock. "Who's that?" I asked, my voice shaking despite myself. She froze, the smile slipping off her face. "It's nothing. Just work." I shook my head, feeling the panic rise. "No, it's not nothing. You're messaging him? On our anniversary?" Her eyes darted to the phone, and she sighed, like it was the hardest thing in the world to admit. I made a mistake. It was a moment of weakness, okay? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A moment of weakness. That's how she justified it. My chest tightened, the betrayal sinking deeper into my bones. My head was spinning. I couldn't comprehend how she'd done this to me, how she'd thrown away everything we had for a moment of weakness. I don't know how long I sat there, my mind completely blank. She was next to me, quietly crying, but I couldn't even look at her. All I could hear was that damn buzzing from her phone, like a reminder of the betrayal, of the lies she'd been feeding me all along. Hours went by in that dead silence, each minute stretching longer than the last. I couldn't think straight. My heart was pounding so loud in my ears that I could barely breathe. I kept replaying everything in my mind, the vacations, the late-night talks, the promises. I thought we were building something real. We had plans. We were supposed to be forever. And yet, here I was, staring at the shattered pieces of everything I thought was true. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this, on our anniversary of all days? I kept asking myself if I missed the signs, if I was too blind to see what was really happening behind my back. And the worst part? I felt like I knew the answer. I was blind. I was so busy convincing myself that we were perfect, I didn't notice the little cracks forming beneath the surface until they were too big too. Ignore that, the anger wasn't even the worst part. It was the disappointment. The heartbreak, the feeling that I had wasted years of my life on someone who didn't even value me enough to be honest. I couldn't stay here. Not like this. But the thought of leaving, her leaving everything behind, made my stomach churn. I loved her. Or, at least, I thought I did. But I had to leave. I knew that deep down. I couldn't stay with someone who didn't respect me enough to be truthful. Still, I wasn't ready to confront her just yet. I needed a plan. This wasn't something I could fix with a conversation. It was too far gone. I needed to leave, but I had to do it on my terms. I couldn't let her have any control over this, and that was the hardest decision I've ever had to make. The night felt endless. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her tears, but more than that. I saw the years I'd invested into this relationship, the dreams, the plans, the sacrifices. I'd put her first in everything. My career sacrificed for her. My time, always hers. I built my life around her. Every decision, every choice I made had her at the center. And now it was all falling apart. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt, it was the realization that I had given up so much of myself, just to be with someone who didn't have the decency to be honest with me. The anger had subsided, replaced by something worse: emptiness. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. Tired of fighting for someone who didn't care enough to fight for me. And that's when it hit me. I couldn't stay, not here. Not in this house that felt more like a prison than a home. I knew I had to leave. But how? I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Not in the emotional chaos of the moment. I had to do it calmly, without any drama. I had to take control of this, no one else. So I started packing. Quietly, slowly. It felt surreal, like I was walking in someone else's life, someone who wasn't me. I moved through the house, gathering things I knew I couldn't leave behind: clothes, a few personal items, and a few things I hadn't realized I cared about until now. I didn't want to look at her face while I did it, so I avoided the bedroom. I had to pretend it was just another night, just another day. I'd made my decision, but it wasn't about making a scene. I had to leave without a word, without any explanation. It had to be clean. No second chances. No hope of reconciliation. This wasn't about revenge, it was about saving myself. The night felt different, quiet. Like the calm before a storm that had already passed. She was still at work, and I knew this was my moment. There was no turning back now. I couldn't second-guess myself, not after everything I'd been through. The decision was made, and it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about taking back control. It was about reclaiming the peace I'd lost. I moved quickly, quietly, like a shadow in my own home. Every step felt heavier than the last. Packing up my things, grabbing whatever I could carry in the few short hours I had, I barely looked back. I didn't need to see her face again. I didn't need to hear the excuses, the apologies that felt empty now. I just needed to leave. I couldn't have done this with a confrontation. If I had stayed, if I had tried to explain, I knew I'd get pulled back in, emotionally tangled in her words. Her pleas? No. This was the only way I could do it without any room for doubt. Without giving her the chance to talk me out of it. I gathered my things in silence. One box at a time, one bag after another. I kept the noise to a minimum. The apartment, the one I'd once dreamed of sharing with her, felt foreign now, like a place I didn't belong. There was nothing left here for me. When everything was packed, when all that was left was an empty apartment, I wrote a simple note. Nothing dramatic. Just the truth, the way I saw it now. I'm done. I'm not coming back. Don't try to find me. No explanation, no long goodbyes. Just finality. I left it on the kitchen counter, walked out, and never looked back. The door clicked shut behind me, and I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. It wasn't a victory. It wasn't triumph. It was just the quiet escape I needed. The first few days after I left felt like a blur. I didn't answer the phone, didn't check messages, didn't even open my email. I just needed silence, space. The apartment was quiet to quiet-tanned. That's when I realized how much noise had been in my life all along. I was surrounded by distractions, by the noise of the betrayal, and now, for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. I spent those days disconnected from everything. I didn't want to hear from her. I didn't want to explain, didn't want to justify my decision. All I wanted was peace. I found solace in the simple things: eating when I was hungry, sleeping when I was tired, and not having to pretend that everything was fine when it wasn't. But she didn't leave me. Alone, her texts started coming in the first night, frantic, pleading, "Please answer. Where are you? We need to talk." I could almost hear the desperation in her words, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. Each message felt like a trap, a way to drag me back into the chaos. The phone calls followed, endless, unrelenting. I didn't pick up. I didn't need to hear her voice. Not now. She tried contacting mutual friends, reaching out to them with confusion in her tone, asking if they knew where I'd gone. They texted me, warning me she was freaking out. I didn't care. I wasn't going to explain myself. I had nothing left to say to her. It was strange, seeing her so frantic. I guess I expected anger, maybe even some bitterness. But the desperation, the way she didn't know what went wrong, was more than I could handle. And maybe that was the hardest part. She didn't understand. She couldn't, but I didn't owe her that understanding. I owed myself peace. And in that silence, I found it. It had been days, maybe even a week, of silence. I'd changed my phone number and turned off everything I could. But still, there she was, her voice, coming through the one channel I hadn't closed off. It was early in the morning when I saw her name pop up on my screen, the call ringing like a slow drumbeat. Pounding in my chest, I stared at the screen for a while, unsure if I should even pick it up. But curiosity won. I answered, "Where are you? Please, just talk to me. I don't understand. Why did you leave like that?" Her voice was shaking, frantic, almost pleading. "I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. It was a moment of weakness. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please, just come back. I can fix this. I love you." I couldn't even process the words at first. The pain, the betrayal, everything she'd done it, flooded back. And here she was, asking for forgiveness as if she hadn't torn apart everything we'd built. Her apology felt hollow, self-serving. The words came to Iseli like she had rehearsed them. Maybe she had. I didn't say anything for a moment. I let the silence stretch between us. Each second heavier than the last. "I don't want to hear it," I said, my voice flat, unemotional. "I don't need your apologies. Not now, not ever. What you did. It's not something you can fix with words. It's done." She started crying, her voice cracking, trying to explain, to apologize again. But I didn't respond. The words she was saying didn't matter anymore. The pain I felt had gone deeper than any apology could reach. This wasn't about fixing anything. It was about my peace. And no amount of her desperate pleas could take that away from me. A few days after the call, I received a message from one of our mutual friends. It was a strange, unexpected text that caught me off guard. "I know what happened with her and Kyle. You deserve to know the truth." I didn't even need to ask who Kyle was. I knew. My mind raced, heart pounding. This was the coworker, the one whose name I'd seen in her messages. The one I never imagined would play such a role in all of this. Curiosity gnawed me, and I reluctantly replied. The friend filled me in on details I wasn't prepared to hear. Apparently, Kyle wasn't just her coworker. He was married. And worse, he had been lying to his wife, too. Just like my fiancée had lied to me, the affair hadn't been a one-time slip-up. A moment of weakness, like she'd told me. No, this had been going on for months longer than I had ever suspected. I felt the air leave my lungs as the weight of the truth hit me like a punch to the gut. They had been planning, sneaking around behind both of our backs, each of them pretending everything was fine in their respective lives while they fed us both lies. I was furious. But more than that, I felt something else creeping in: humiliation. All this time, I thought I had been the one left in the dark, but in reality, we had both been played. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been leading me to believe she was the victim of a situation she'd carefully orchestrated. I realized now that Kyle wasn't just the guy she had cheated with. He was part of the web she'd spun to make me feel like I was the crazy one. I wasn't just hurt. I was deceived by both of them. And now, I had to face the full extent of their betrayal. I was a fool. I spent days, no weeks, thinking about everything that had happened. At first, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I kept replaying all the moments, the conversations, everything she said, every excuse she gave, wondering if I could have seen it coming. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how deeply I'd been manipulated. Not just by her, but by the life I had built around her. I was so wrapped up in her and the idea of us that I had lost sight of myself. I'd sacrificed pieces of who I was for the relationship, thinking that was what love was supposed to be. I had always put her first, her needs, her feelings, her dreams. And I'd done it so willingly, thinking it was what we were supposed to do for each other. But the reality hit hard. I had given up my own sense of self, my own happiness, for someone who didn't even have the decency to be honest with me. I realized I wasn't the crazy one. I wasn't the problem. I wasn't broken, she was. And in a twisted way, that gave me a sense of peace. I didn't need her to apologize. I didn't need any closure. I didn't need answers anymore. The only thing I needed was to move on, to heal, to find my own strength. And that's exactly what I was doing. Slowly but surely, I started rebuilding. I started remembering who I was before all of this, before I became us instead of just me. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I felt like I couldn't breathe, but I pushed through. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. Moving forward, taking back what I had lost. I wasn't broken. I was growing. And for the first time in a long time, it's finally felt like I could breathe again. It was time to leave her behind, not just physically, but emotionally too. For good, I wasn't expecting it. Honestly, I thought I had seen the last of her, but there she was, standing outside my new apartment. Her eyes red, her hands trembling as she knocked on the door. At first, I didn't even move. I just stood there, staring at the door, my heart beating harder in my chest. I'd moved on from all of this, her, the lies, the betrayal, but somehow I knew this was coming. She needed closure. She needed to feel like she could fix everything to reclaim the control she'd lost. I opened the door. She stood there, looking at me like I was a ghost. I could see it in her eyes, the regret, the panic. She wasn't here for an explanation. She was here to get me back. She opened her mouth, but the words tumbled out in a rush. I know I messed up, okay? I made a mistake. I am sorry. I shouldn't have done what I did, and I promise you have changed. I'll do anything to fix this. Please, just come back. I need you. Her voice cracked, and I could see it, the desperation in her eyes. But there was no anger in me anymore. I didn't feel rage or even sadness. I felt nothing. You're too late, I said calmly. Letting the words sink in, the truth hanging heavy in the air between us. This isn't something that can be fixed with an apology. You already made your choice, and I've already made mine. It's over. She opened her mouth again, but no words came out. She was frozen, and I felt a strange sense of finality. There was no more fighting for something that had already been lost. I don't want to be with someone who can't even be honest with me, I continued, my voice steady. You lost me the moment you decided to lie to me. She stood there, her face pale, searching my eyes for any sign that maybe, just maybe, I'd change my mind. But I knew better now. My heart had already closed off, and there was nothing she could say to open it again. I turned, and without another word, I shut the door. For good. The days after that final confrontation were quieter than I expected. It wasn't peaceful right away. There was still anger, frustration, and a constant replaying of the past in my head. But slowly, I started to realize something. I had been living in chaos for so long, holding on to a version of love that didn't exist anymore, and now I was free. Free from the guilt, free from the doubt, and most importantly, free from her. I spent the next few weeks focusing on myself. I started working out again, something I hadn't done in months. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in ages, people who had always been there for me, but I had pushed away in favor of her. I began to build a life that was mine, not one defined by someone else's needs or expectations. I started doing things I enjoyed, things that had once brought me peace. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for someone else's approval. I wasn't looking for validation. I was learning how to be okay on my own, and that was the real healing. The closure wasn't about her. It wasn't about her apology or her trying to win me back. It was about me choosing myself, choosing to walk away from the toxicity, choosing to take control of my life again. The pain from the betrayal didn't vanish overnight, but it became easier to carry. I realized I was stronger than I had given myself credit for. I'd walked through fire, and I was still standing. That, in itself, was a victory. I looked at the future with hope now. It wasn't about the past anymore. It was about what came next. The chapter with her was closed, and I was ready to start writing my own story. One where I chose happiness, peace, and freedom. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was healed. And I was ready for whatever came next.